Wednesday, November the 13th. Lake level's right at 919 and coming down. It came down a few inches today. Came up quite a bit since we got, what do we have, about 3 or 4 inches of rain last weekend. But the water temperature has definitely come down. It has been cold out there the last few days. You know, I've been wanting the water temperature to cool down. So I'm kind of getting what I wanted there. You know, I've got a pretty good deep bite going. You know, I've fished, I think, every day but Monday. But the shallow bite to me is still pretty tough. You know, I get it going till about 9 o'clock, and then it seems to kind of disappear. But I'll get into the deep deal first. I've been catching them, and I've been doing it, you know, down by the dam. Today I was up in the mid-James, and it's been working around Kimberling and up in the White River. The Kentuckys are really getting schooled up, and there's quite a few white bass mixed in with them. And they've been out there on these long gravel flats. And what you can do is just idle around. Once you find the bait, you know, you'll find the fish. But they've been anywhere from not much shallower than 35 for me, but a lot of them have been out in that 45 to 52 feet. And the way we've been catching them the best is on a Rapala ice fishing jig. This one here is a 7/8 ounce. It's a little chartreuse and white, but the blue and white will work as well. And a slab spoon, you know, anywhere from a 1/2 ounce to a 1 ounce spoon. But where I'm fishing deep like this, I like at least a 3/4 ounce or 7/8 or 1 ounce. And I really don't think it matters whose spoon you throw. To me, basically, a slab spoon has got very little action. It just gets down in a hurry as long as it's got a good hook. White seems to be the best color for me. This particular one is a Hazy Daisy. And if I want something a little heavier, I'll go to the War Eagle because they make a 7/8. So it kind of covers that, you know, as far as the spoons. And the other thing I've been throwing out there too, I've been taking a 1/4 ounce Ultimate Ned rig head and putting a little tiny swim bait on it and fishing it just like a drop shot. It seems like I can't get bit very well on a drop shot, but I can get bit on this. And you could also try like a little 3 or 4 inch grub, like a smoke or a white color will probably work good as well. But it seems like when the fish slack off on the spoon and the ice fishing jig, you can pick up a few more on that Ned head with a little swim bait. But what's kind of funny is if you get around the shad where they're real thick, and, you know, some of the shad are up pretty high in the water column. You know, they might be from 20 to 30 foot deep, but I'm having trouble getting bit underneath the shad. I need the shad around, you know, like if I get to the outside edges of the schools of shad, that's where I'm more apt to find the fish. Like I say, fishing right through the shad or under them, I seem to be struggling. But these points that I'm fishing, if I idle across it and don't see any bait, there's a pretty good chance I'm not going to get bit. But if I'm seeing several different schools of shad, it doesn't really matter what depth I'm seeing the bait at. If the bait is present out there on them points, we've been able to find some fish. And a lot of them, like I say, they're starting to group up pretty good because we had several doubles and triples today. You know, whenever you get them fired up, you'll get several to bite. Most all of them have been Kentuckys. You know, like I say, with a few white bass mixed in. Down by the dam, there's been a few smallmouth mixed in. But it seems like, you know, most of them are pretty good fish. They're about half and half as far as keepers. Most of the keepers are about 2, 2 1/4. Every once in a while, you'll get a 3-pounder. But we're not catching too many that are like under 12 inches, you know. Now, we did get into a bunch of real little white bass today, but there was also some big sows mixed in with them. But like I say, that's kind of been working all over the lake. The thing that hasn't changed very much, I went in shallow several times today, and we did catch one smallmouth, about 3 pounds on a spinnerbait later in the day. But, you know, we had wind crashing in on a couple banks that we fished. But after 9 o'clock, the shallow bite, I really struggle. You know, up till 9, I can catch them on a jig, either the 3/8 or 1/2 ounce jig, you know, fairly shallow from about 5 feet out to about, you know, 15 foot. Now, with the water up in the bushes, I've spent a little bit of time up in there flipping, throwing a spinnerbait around them. But I seem like I can get bit on the outside of the bushes from about where the old bank line normally is, where 915 would be, which would be about 3 foot deep right now, almost 4. But from that line out to, about 15 foot seems like the best jig bite. And the majority of them fish have been smallmouths. I just don't think them largemouths, or at least I haven't found them where they've moved into the backs of the creeks. I'm not finding hardly any shad back in there, any kind of shore minnows. Like I say, early I can go in the back of the creek and, maybe catch 1 or 2. But I've got to cover a lot of water in that first couple hours of the morning. Some days we catch them on a crankbait, wiggle wart or a rock crawler. And some days on a tandem willow leaf spinnerbait like a screaming eagle. But once that sun gets up, and even the days where it was pretty cloudy and nasty, past that 9:30, 10 o'clock, I seem to struggle to get a bite. Now, the other way I've been able to catch them throughout the day, and I'm not a real big bluff fisherman. I mean, I don't like fishing straight up down vertical bluffs, but I'll do whatever I have to do to catch fish. But I've been getting on these bluff ends with either a 1/2 ounce or a 3/4 ounce jig, and I've really been impressed with the way this ultimate cover jig comes through the cedar trees. Them real steep, almost straight up and down rock ledges or bluffs that's got timber on them. If I set the boat in about 40 foot and 45-degree angle cast, just about right up to the bank, walk it down them ledges. The problem is so many of them bluffs got a lot of timber. Good thing about it is there's some fish hanging around that timber, but you got to be able to get your bait, through the timber, and then when you get hooked up, be able to get the fish out of it. But there's been some good fish. We've got some good smallmouths, a few largemouths, and some big old Kentuckies out there. Now, not every bluff has them. It seems like I've got to, if I fish them straight up and down bluffs, I got to be fishing a little indentation or a cut or a rock slide. Just a straight, sheer rock wall, I don't seem to get bit. It's got to have a little indentation, something to break it up. And like today where the wind was blowing real hard, it was kind of, you got to have, pretty decent conditions. If the wind's blowing like it was today and it's blowing into the bank that you're trying to fish, it's kind of hard because the bite is so light. It's hard to feel the bait down and the wind's putting a big loop in the line. But like I say, there is some fish out there on them bluffs. And there's probably a lot of different baits. A person could fish a tube, but I've had the best luck with the jig because it's coming through a lot. We've tried it with a football jig, but we're getting it hung up quite a bit. This jig here, the way it's set up, comes through it real well. But you could probably try like a Texas rig tube or even like a Zoom speed craw. A Texas rig will come through a lot of that cover better than, about any jig out there. So that's something else for you to try. As far as a spinnerbait and the cedar tops and stuff, I mean, the water's so high, there's very few cedar tops showing. I hadn't been able to get, any kind of a top water bite. I've been throwing a whopper plopper and a spook early in the morning with very little success. It seems like if I throw the jig or a wiggle wart or a rock crawler early, I can get bit there shallow. But, I've kind of been fishing all over the lake. Like I said, I fished the dam yesterday, the James River today up to about Cape Fear, and Baxter to Campbell Point a few days ago. So a lot of the same stuff is going on. The water clarity looks real good. Down Lake is real clear. The Mid James had nice, pretty green color. But like I said, I go back in the backs of the bigger creeks where I feel like the shad ought to be migrating. And they're kind of hard to find out there, even in the centers of the creeks. We've been looking in the center of the creeks to fish over some of the deeper timber with the spoon and ice fishing jig. But most of the bait I'm seeing is main lake or real close to it. A week or two ago, it seemed like all that shad was out in the middle of the channel. At least now, a lot of them shad have started to congregate on the main lake points. And I think them fish have been there all along, but the shad being present is making the fish a little bit more active. And I've tried a football jig and a few different jigs out there in that 30 to 45 foot of water, but it seems like them fish are really feeding heavy on shad. Whenever you catch a few, I mean, they'll be belching shad all the way up as you're reeling them. But the good thing about it's been fun. You might have to hit 4 or 5 spots and find them, but once you get them fired up, you know, you can catch a lot of fish on back-to-back casts. And that will definitely just continue to get better as it gets colder. I don't think we're going to see any big migration of the Kentuckies moving shallow. I think, you know, they're out there deep and they're going to stay out there for the winter now. But I'm still, you know, hoping that these largemouth are going to show back up shallow. The majority of the fish I'm catching shallow are smallmouths. Them largemouths, I don't know where they are for sure, if they're suspended halfway, you know, getting ready to go back. Hopefully they go back. You know, there's been some years where they won't come. You know, if the bait doesn't come in there, we're probably not going to see them, you know, a good shallow largemouth bite. But, you know, give this water 4 or 5 days in the mid-50s. If it's going to happen, it should start to happen in the next week or so. So, till next week, good luck, good fishing.